Hello, darlings, and welcome to my podcast, Treading the Boards to Business, where we talk all things from sparkle and spotlight to the boardroom and beyond. My name is Shelley Otway-Wood, former actress, singer and dancer, and now CEO of Stepping Out Stars of Tomorrow Theatre School, The Costume Cupboard, and Dance and Performing Arts Business Coach. I am going to share with you some fantastic showbiz stories with my friends and colleagues about their careers in performing arts and beyond. So let's open these curtains and step into the spotlight.
Hi. Oh,
Oh,
how are you?
I'm fine. I am loving that coat in the background.
I know. We're in this bloody rented bed. So I just looked and I got, my God, this is the most boring background ever. So I ran upstairs and grabbed the coat I stole from Mr. Tumble.
God, this is going to be so much fun. I'm so looking forward to having you on here.
Me too.
Welcome, Ben Stock, actor, pianist, extravaganza, panto dame. I mean, honestly, is there anything that you can't do, Ben? I just want to start with how we met because it's quite funny that a couple of people that I've had on my podcasts actually are not in my were not in my year at GSA.
Okay.
So I
Yes.
had Emma Cowlon, Emma Lloyd Cowlon last week, and it's interesting that actually people that you like graduate with, you, I mean, a lot of my core friends like Matt, Shula, Nick, they've all moved abroad. I'm the only one
Right.
still here. But how we met is kind of almost been almost after we left, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've got a terrible memory, Shelley. So you're going to ask me things. So I'm really like, I don't know. I distinctly remember remember you from GSA. I mean, I really remember because were you 2 years below me? I think you were.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, and I distinctly remember just your amazing energy around GSA and coming to shows, because
Oh,
and it's rare that when you're a third year, the first years know you because you're doing
of course they
shows.
do.
They know who you are. They know your name because they've got it in a program or whatever. But it rarely happens the other way. But I
Oh.
did know lots of and also I used to dip in and play for ballet
Yeah,
classes.
I had that down in my notes. Yeah, you used to play for Step One Ballet, didn't you?
I did with Tracy Collier,
Yeah, with a lovely Tracy Collier. And
which
it's
I'd
funny.
done. That was one of my Saturday jobs when I was growing up. So my mum said to me that I had to get a job, and I was like, yeah, yeah, as you do on a Saturday or whatever. And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. As I was listening to Annie Get Your Gun in my bedroom, um, and so I didn't get a job. So my mum got one for me, which was cleaning the local petrol station every Sunday morning. I used to have to get up and go and wash down the pumps and sweep the thing. So, funnily enough, I very quickly got myself, and I used to get £6 and a can of pop, a can of Coke. That was my
Was it
payment.
GSA?
This was way before GSA. I was like
Oh, okay.
14 or 15.
Okay.
And so I then very quickly got myself a job, which I wanted to do. And I used to go to a lovely dance school called the 344 Dance Centre in Bristol. So I used to have my classes in the morning and I'd stay on for the rest of the day and play for tap classes. Um,
Okay.
and
Had you always played? Because obviously
yeah,
that's become a skill that has really helped you during maybe
yeah,
times when you've been out of work, but also in jobs as well, hasn't it?
sure. Yeah, the whole thing's married together. My dad always wanted me and my brother to play an instrument. He always said if you can play the piano, you'll always be able to earn, as we say in Bristol, a fiver, £5.
So
Sometimes
true.
the money hasn't gone up much, I have to say. Um, so I always did, but I wasn't very good at school. I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't academic at all. But somehow, when I couldn't do numbers, I was terrible at maths, still am. But when you put music in front of me, I just knew how to read it. It just clicked. It just made sense,
Yeah.
and that's how it all began for me, really, with those piano lessons. Um,
Wow. Okay. So, how did you then almost? So the piano started first, which is actually quite unusual because a lot of people normally start dancing first, don't they? 'Cause
yeah,
you're a lovely dancer as well. I
that's
remember.
very sweet of you.
No, I remember seeing you in Me and My Girl. as the family solicitor.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were just fabulous in that. I mean, I just loved it. And you know, you say that you remember me from shows. I was one of those sad first years that would not just go and see a show once. I'd go every night, you know.
But why would you not? Why would
Yeah.
you? If you don't want to do that, you're in the wrong business, really, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And I
fine.
think I remember seeing that show, you know, a few times when you were there. So obviously you did the learning the piano and everything first, but you obviously did dancing before you went to GSA, did you?
Yeah, so it sort of snowballed. I had my piano lessons, and my piano teacher was terrifying. She'd be illegal now. I mean, she literally used to have. She never like. She wasn't a cruel woman, but she had a cane, and if you weren't doing your rhythms right, she would beat the cane onto your wrist to get the
Oh my
rhythm. I
God.
mean, she literally would be, locked up now. Miss Wilcox, Ivy Wilcox, but she had a singing group called the Maytones, and we used to go around different old people's homes doing concerts.
Okay.
And she said I had to join the Maytones because there weren't many boys, and I was too scared to say no. And obviously, there was something about it that attracted me. So that then sort of started this the singing thing, and then I started entering little Eisteddfods, they were called, in Bristol, sort of competitions, and I always did quite well because I was always a bit relaxed about it and whatever. And they did speech and drama, so then I had this sort of elocution and speech and drama lessons. This is all
Okay.
making me sound like some Victorian sort of relic, which I am.
Which also not.
But then I fell in
But this is
love.
all your grounding, isn't it? You
This
know?
is all when I was 5 and 6. This is all really, I was really
Yeah.
young, so like 45 years ago. And I was, and then I became obsessed. This is hilarious. I became slightly obsessed with the roly polies, which you may not even
Ah,
remember.
no, I do remember them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Fantastic.
tap dancing all
Tap dancers,
ladies
yeah.
group, and they used to pretend that they were. I mean, they used to say, "Oh, they're really fat," is what we used to say in the 80s. And actually, when you look at photographs of them
No,
now,
they
they
weren't.
really they were probably a size, 14 or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure some of them had padding and stuff, but I loved them. They were on the Les Dawson show on a Saturday night, and I loved them. I saw them in pantomime. So then I wanted to tap dance, and then the real shift came when. And I had some amazing teachers that I'm still in touch with. Some sadly are no longer
Oh,
with us. But my tap dancing teacher, Miss Ryan, said she was choreographing for the local amateur company, St Mary's Players, and they were doing the musical Mame, and they needed some young boys, some sort of 10-year-old boys. And by
okay.
this time I was, 10. And I went along, and there were two parts. One was an amazing part of the nephew. One was a terrible part of the great nephew, who had about 8 lines. I got the part of, I got the 8-line part. Of course I did. But that was the moment. And I remember going to my first Sunday afternoon rehearsal with the whole of the St. Mary's Players. And I walked in and they were all singing, "Light the candles, get the ice out," doing Mame. And I just thought, I'm home.
This is what I want to do.
I didn't even know what it is. I didn't know what a musical was really. I didn't know anything. But I thought, this is what I want to do. And there were other things along the way. I've always done stuff in school and the local church, and there was another group that did in Mangotsfield that did sort of religious musicals, and I was always part of that. There were lots of things along the way, but it was joining St Mary's Players, and I'm now their president.
Oh, how
Um,
lovely. I love
which
it
is
when it does a full circle like that. It's so
which is
nice.
a terribly grand title for like turning up and seeing the show and going hello. But that was the moment that all of those individual lessons became one thing. And then I thought, okay, I don't know what this is, but I want to do it. And luckily, I had very supportive parents. And when I finished Mame, my mum then phoned them and said, could he be in something else? And my voice wasn't even broken, but I went and joined this adult society because my mum's experience of it was not huge. She danced as a kid and had music lessons and stuff. But
Yeah.
and because I was tall, I became part of St Mary's Place. So while everybody else was doing sort of, Annie and Bugsy Malone with youngsters, I was
You did.
doing Annie Get Your Gun in Oklahoma and Kiss Me Kate and old time music halls, which I still do,
Yeah.
with an adult society. And then at the age of 14, we were doing Sweet Charity, and the MD pulled out, and I was like, oh, and I was sort of sidled up to the director and went, I can play the piano a bit. Do you want me to help out a little bit? And so I did. I started playing for rehearsals.
Okay.
And then because they were such amazing people, on their next show, we always did like a musical in Easter time, and then in September, October, we did like an old time music hall or songs in the shows. They asked me to MD their next show. So at
Okay.
14, I was being terribly
Wow.
precocious and
Incredible.
bossy and telling my mum tells this story of me walking in and telling them all off because they didn't know their words or whatever, and saying, it's absolutely I was 14. It was, and there's 60-year-olds, there's 70-year-olds, there's 80-year-olds, and I'm going, it's appalling. You've got to get this right. You've got to pull yourself together. And by the next rehearsal, anybody who doesn't know this will be out of this samba.
Oh, I love
Awful.
that.
What an awful human being. But it was it was, it was family and home support and the support St Mary's Players really that really pushed me to go on
The
and work.
kind of family support is something really important, isn't it? Because my mum
Yeah,
and dad weren't, a bit like you. My dad was a car salesman. My mum was a secretary.
yeah.
My mum danced as a child, but that was kind of it, really.
Showbiz
Um,
mug. Showbiz
Oh, I
mug.
love it. I know. I've actually,
Hello,
do you
Dolly.
know what?
Showbiz.
Talking about mugs, somebody said to me on a podcast yesterday, they were like, "Is it okay if I have if I have a drink on your podcast?" I was like, "Yeah." And then
Oh, yeah.
somebody else said that they weren't. I wasn't allowed to drink. I said, "You can drink anything on my podcast. I don't care." But I've got an Alice in Wonderland mug today,
I've got
because I'm
Hello,
off to
Dolly.
Disney tomorrow.
Very good. Hello, Dolly is mine.
Oh, I love her.
With a cup of tea.
I saw. Oh, we need to talk about Bernadette Peters actually,
We
because I
do.
saw her in that in New York. Did you see her in that?
When I bought the mug. Yeah. Sorry, go back. I
Yeah.
interrupted you. You were talking about the
That's okay.
family
No, I
support.
was just going to say about supportive parents because my parents were very supportive and didn't come from this industry, this crazy world we call show at all. And I notice a lot. Obviously, I have my theatre school. Most people, obviously, that'll be listening in will know that. But I obviously deal with students every day, and we have a really high success rate of kids getting into drama school, which is fabulous. But I find now that I spend more of my time trying to convince parents that this child is really good and needs to do this than I do like the other way around,
Yeah.
And my parents never were. I was a bit like you. I mean, how I deal with the spreadsheets and maths and stuff for my businesses now, I have no idea because my maths was awful. I mean, I failed maths 3 times. I literally got a worse grade each time I took it. But and it's funny, isn't it? Because I wasn't, it was almost like one half of my brain worked. Anything musical, anything creative, anything arty, anything like that was fine. But science and maths, it was like this kind of half of my brain was asleep. And so I find it quite hard sometimes to kind of convince parents that this child isn't going to be a mathematician, They're really creative and this is actually fine. Like there's a viable career here.
And I also think that I think what people forget is that it's a viable career, even if you don't end up doing what you initially thought you were going
Yeah.
to end up doing.
Yeah.
Because so there was a guy in my year who had worked in a state agency before he came into college, and I'm not going to tell his story on his behalf, but he did the training, and he's back estate agent, and quite quickly went back to estate agent. But he's a really, really successful estate agent because that training of putting yourself out there and presenting yourself and putting yourself. This is why drama should be taught in schools. It's not about making the next Tom Hiddleston, Judy Dench, whatever.
Yeah.
It's about having an entire generation of students
Life
who go out
skills.
into the world who can stand up and present themselves in an interview. And so when you have to do a presentation in your interview about whatever it is, geography or soil erosion or something, you're actually
Yeah.
used to standing up and doing it. And
Yeah. And it
that's
not being
what,
a problem.
and I also I've also feel quite passionately that because we spend so much time doing this and scrolling and whatever,
Mm.
our world's becoming very insular. And so being able to put that down and use your imagination and think of a creative way in expressing yourself or whatever, it's more important than ever. But it's getting that message through that, we need to drama school, we need to do drama in schools or music in schools. They just think, that's a load of old,
Yeah.
weirdos
Yeah. It's so
putting tights
important.
on and running around, which
Yeah.
can be. But that isn't a bad thing for an hour that you put your phone down and you just have to make up a story and express yourself.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
a fairly basic human thing.
Yeah, and like you say, like coming out of I mean, we've changed our ads recently, rather than it being, oh, come and do drama and singing. We've actually said, put your tech down, come do drama and singing.
Yeah.
Because actually, as a parent, if I know that my daughter is for 3 hours a week going to go and do drama, singing, dance and put her phone down, quite honestly, I'm more happy with that. I don't care what she does in those 3 hours,
Yeah,
really.
but she's yeah.
She's not on her phone, and I think that's something that was very, very different when we were at drama school. And I remember getting my first Nokia that was like this,
Yeah, it's a
and
brick.
saying, "Oh, hello, oh, it's my agent,"
Yeah, well,
and
that
being
rubbish.
so grand about it, But it's just not like
But
that
actually,
now, is it?
I had a conversation with a friend yesterday who, I mean, I'm 50 in a few weeks, and he's a couple of years ahead of me, and he's actually joined a social group where it's a group of people who meet on a Thursday or whatever it is, and you leave your phone in your bag and you go and you actually just have a coffee,
Really?
have a whatever, and chat with each other. And then maybe I think I got the impression there was maybe a subject that was they knew they were going to talk about, so people kind of had a little look, and but then that just sort of filtered out into people getting to know each other and having conversations face to face, which is what WIs and things like that have always
Yeah,
been. But it's actually a real conscious effort to do that. And I thought, well, what a fabulous idea! Meet
yeah,
new people and actually exchange ideas. And also, I think, without getting political, we're all becoming so reactionary to a headline. And actually, maybe sometimes when you discuss a topic, you can hear other people's point of view and think, I don't agree with you, but it just takes that immediate, share,
immediate,
hate,
yeah.
like, disgust, fabulous, amazing, takes that immediate gut reaction out of the situation, which is so important.
How do you find, obviously, because you are very successful, and I love seeing all your updates on your page, and you're very humble, which
That's
I
the job
I
of
just
social media, is for everyone to pretend that we're living this perfect life.
but no, let's not take this away from you, Ben. You've done very, very well, and I know that from drama school, it was all about being in the West End. That's all we all wanted to
Yeah,
do.
sure.
And you have been very successful and done West End stuff, but also you've had some really lovely parts not doing West End stuff. And I try and implement this into my school of, it's not just about being in the West End. There are so many other opportunities and
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
theatres for you to see and different countries and, all of that. But because everything is so instant now, how has that changed in terms of like getting castings and things like that? Because obviously, it's a lot of it still self tapes now, even for like musical auditions.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, there's still a lot of self tapes, and I understand that, but I don't personally. I can't see how it helps because I've been on the other side directing, and you, I don't know how if you're going to direct somebody in something, then I want to meet them. And
Yeah,
I think what happens now is there are it's an overcrowded industry, and I think what happens is there's a first round of, is this person got this type of voice we're looking for, and then it moves. It was all being done on self tapes, and
yeah,
now it's those sort of maybe early ones to get a more realistic number. So, which in a way is a good thing. Try and find the positive, because I think years gone by, if there were 1,000 people for one role, the first 500 wouldn't have had a chance to do anything. They just wouldn't have
yeah,
seen. Whereas perhaps more of those people get in front of the casting director. And casting directors are brilliant people with brilliant brains who go, she's not right for this, but I'm going to lock
yeah,
her away. There's something about her I like, And we never know those things until 6, 7 years later when a
yeah.
phone call comes going, can you come in for this? Why? Well, I saw your self tape 5 years ago. Um, so that's changed.
Do you
Come
find
on.
that a little bit easier though? Because I
No, I
mean,
hate self tapes
oh,
because
do
I'm
you?
terrible at tech. I have
Oh,
a
I
fairly
hate
new
it.
agent, and all I have to do is record it and send it to him, and so I can go, oh, what button is it? Blah, blah. Oh God, I pressed the wrong thing. I can do all of that, and then I send the whole thing to him, and because he's much younger than me, he edits it down and just sends off the bit in the middle that
Okay.
needs. So when I drop it at the end, and I think I've switched it off, and I'm making tea, and there's another 45 minutes of me wandering in the kitchen, he edits all that off.
Or you're swearing about the casting director that you're sending the tape
Exactly,
to.
exactly. So yeah, so that goes, but for telly and film. Not that I sort of really do that, but I mean, it's so much more sensible to see how somebody reacts on a screen than it is to
Yeah.
meet them in person, I think.
I mean, it must be quite nice in terms of, um, you know, I remember going into an audition room and, just messing it up, like, because
Yeah,
you get so nervous. And no matter how long you've been doing it for, you still get nervous and
yeah,
you can really mess it up on the day, of a final call or something. Whereas I guess if you've got a self-tape, you've got a chance of really honing it
you
before
have.
you
But
send it off.
I think you then go the other way and you record it 600 times because there's like one
Yeah.
half note that you perhaps think you could do better. So and normally if you get really in the zone, normally if you get beginning to end without forgetting the words or dropping or whatever, that's sort of the take you should send in because it's probably better than anybody else. And
Yeah.
if I was recording a song, I would sing it 3 or 4 times anyway before as you would at home before you did the audition, just to get it in your voice again,
Yeah.
and then record that one and just send it off and get on with the rest of your life. Otherwise, you can spend days doing something from which you don't even get a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your life is slipping by. So I think sing it,
Get
go.
it off, get it
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Um, and how, like when you kind of left drama school, how easy did you leave college with an agent or did
I
you?
did. I was really lucky. My first agent, I actually got at the end of the second year.
Oh wow.
We did a chorus line at the Eva Argo,
Mm,
and
I saw
uh,
that.
a lovely. They're both now retired, but a lovely two ladies who ran an agency called Joyce Ray and Sheila McIntosh Ray. They came to see a chorus line and approached me immediately. But Joyce and I went and met them at the end of the second year. But Joyce, who was more my agent than Sheila, Joyce really sort of took me under her wing. She said to me, um, "We'd like to, we would like to offer you representation, but you've still got your whole third year to do. You shouldn't make a decision yet. You should so
What good
just know."
advice.
Yeah, they were wonderful. I love that. I'm still in touch with both of them. And so then we did all the the third year shows and all of that thing and what we used to call class, which was our showcase. We
Yeah.
did all that, and I had some other offers, but there was something about Joyce and Sheila that I really loved. And I didn't have there were people in my year like lovely Diane Pilkington and Karen Sheen who were leaving, and Lucy Harris, they were leaving wham bam straight into the West End. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, they
not
were.
that person.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting recalls. And Jerry Tebbett, who was our course leader, said to me, if you haven't got work, then come and do pantomime for me in Watford.
Okay.
And that was sort of my first job. I did a couple of things before that, just through perseverance. There used to be something called the Lost Musicals, which was Sunday afternoons, and they were sort of concert readings of forgotten musicals. And I wrote off and I auditioned. I did one of those while I was still at college. And then through sheer chutzpah, I wrote to a lovely lady called Jo Benjamin, who was producing the Covent Garden Festival, and they were doing Anyone Can Whistle. And
Okay.
I wrote and said, I think I could play the lead in this. I mean, please, can you imagine? I was,
I
I
love
know
it.
I was 21, but she saw me. She auditioned me. She said, I thought it was sweet of you to write in. You're still at college. I wanted to encourage you. And again, she said, look, you haven't got the lead, obviously. I couldn't play it now, let alone then. But she said, we've got a few sort of featured ensemble bits. And I understand you play the piano. I said, oh, yes. Would you come and play some piano for some of the rehearsals? And I was like, yes. I didn't even know what Anyone Can Whistle was. I'm forced to put this Sondheim score on me. I said, I can only play the easy ones. I can only play the... And there I was in a rehearsal room, accompanying Lindsay Haitley and
Oh
with
my goodness.
with
Wow.
fabulous Simon Green and Jenny Logan and playing David Alder and Ian Lavender. And the director of that also took me under her wing, and I was her assistant when we did it again down in Cardiff, and I was her assistant director. And they also then said, well, we want a drama school ensemble. So actually, a lot of my year ended up and the year below me, we all ended up doing it.
Okay.
I got this little featured bit, so I was, so I'd done a few bits, but I didn't get that wham bam first job. My first job was Panto in Watford,
Yeah.
and then my in between job was playing for. I was working at the Odeon Cinema in Guildford. I was playing for tap and ballet classes at GSA. I mean, going back to watching other, back to your school playing in classes, not working. And I used to play the piano.
Yeah, that must have been tricky and hard.
It sort of was, but I think when I first left college, I had such huge confidence that something was going to happen, that it was
Yeah.
okay. Um, and we were surrounded at that point by people like Jerry and Tracy, the aforementioned Tracy Colley, who had been through the business and knew that there were times when you weren't working and there were times when you were working. And
Yeah.
you're not a worse human being for either one of those things. And then my other job was playing on a Tuesday and Thursday night in a restaurant at the Even Arno Theatre. There used to be a restaurant on the top floor called Figaro's. And I used to play the piano before, in the interval, and after the plays.
They were the days of like Jamie Barber, weren't they?
Yes, lovely Jamie Barber. And I'd already done 3 shows at the Arno through GSA. And I knew Jamie to say hello to from working in the restaurant. So on a Tuesday, I used to watch the play. And on a Thursday, they used to give me pasta. Like, well, pasta while Act 1 was on and dessert while Act 2 was on. Anyway, I left to do pantomime. I came back and I was playing on the Tuesday night. And Jamie came in. He went, I thought you'd left. And I said, yes, I did panto. And he said, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, nothing. I'm just back to auditioning. He said, I'll be back. I'll come and see you in the interval or in Act 2 or something. So he came up and he said, tomorrow morning, go to this address. It was one of the theatres. I think it was the Novello, the Strand. Take a song and some dance stuff. We're casting for a musical with Dame Edna tomorrow. And it's the finals. So go in and just do your best and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I turn up. I do an awful dance call because it was quite sort of trendy from, it was quite sort of street dance. It was quite, out there. And I sang a song and they said, what have you got to sing? And I said, well, while I was at GSA, I did this show called Yusupov about the murder of Rasputin. And this is one of the songs from it. And I sang the song. And it was in the theatre. So they were way back. I didn't know who I was auditioning for. And would you believe, walking forward were the 2 writers of Yusupov.
No.
Yeah, James McConnell and Kit Hesketh-Harvey. And they were writing the Dame Edna show. And
oh my goodness. I mean, there's an element of luck here, isn't there?
Absolutely. And so that was Wednesday. So I did the whole thing. I sang something else and I left. And Jamie, I was going to say he texted me. This was late 90s. He did not text me. He called me and said, they really like what you did. They're making decisions. You're here tomorrow. So the whole day, I spent the whole day, I had a pager. I didn't even have a phone. I had looking at my pager. And then I went to work that night and I'd seen the play on the Tuesday. So I was having my pasta and there was a phone, there was a payphone in the foyer at the Even Arno. And I went downstairs, I'd left it as late as possible. I hadn't heard from my agent. And I went downstairs and I phoned my mum and I said, well, I didn't hear. So and as I was telling her that I hadn't got it and that I was so disappointed. And Jamie came down the stairs at the Even Arno with his thumbs up going like this. So I said to my mum, I'll phone you back. And I put the phone down and he went, you got it, but I wanted to tell you.
Oh, how lovely of him.
So then I phoned my mum back and I was in floods of tears and all of this because it was doing a short tour and it was going into the West End.
I saw that at the Arno. It was brilliant because it was the first half was all musical and then it was
it was terrible. It was such a massive flop for Dame Edna.
Was it?
Oh, huge flop. We ran 12 weeks at the Theatre Royal Haymarket. We hardly ever got anybody in. Barry thought it was the end of his career, really, because at the time he hadn't done anything for a while. And Lily Savage was huge. Mrs. Merton was huge. Other people had taken over. But then he went to America, which he'd never conquered, and actually conquered America after the failure of our show. But I made lifelong friends on that show. It was my first West End show. Prince Charles came to our first preview with Harry and William. Because Barry was so well connected. So and what
I was saying about luck, there is an element of luck, but you're obviously a very good company member, and that I say this to my kids all the time. Be a nice person, be kind to other people, because I got a lot of jobs, from another job, I got Carousel and then I got Stepping Out and then I got Stepping Out and then I got Perth Rep and then got 2 plays. And it was because I was a nice person to be around,
And I also think in this industry, when it's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth job, don't have an opinion, just be quiet and learn. That's
Yeah.
what you have to do. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but as you go on, you can still be nice and go, oh, I'm really sorry, but I need that sorted. I can't, that isn't okay.
Yeah, I had a really
um,
interesting conversation with one of my really good friends, Darren Bennett,
oh
who's
yes.
currently in Kinky Boots, and I love Darren dearly. And he was I went to see him in Greece recently, about a year ago, and and he was saying how one of the younger members, who literally just left drama school, had asked for a meeting with him because he needed to give him some notes, and it was his first job. And I was like, I wouldn't have dared.
No, I was terrified to speak.
Yeah, I mean.
And I used to, I'm still like this. If I remember rehearsing Dame Edna, and I was still living in Guildford, and we rehearsed at the American Church on Tottenham Court Road. And, rehearsal started at 10. There was never a day that I wasn't stood outside that American church before 9 o'clock. Never mind
Absolutely.
before 10. I was stood outside that thing waiting because I was so scared of trains being delayed
Yeah,
or whatever. I was up there at court, and I'm still the same.
I am as well. I
I,
think that's a really, really good point to bring up because I install this into my students all the time. We
yeah.
had a rehearsal last night. We go to Disney on Sunday, and we had our final Disney rehearsal last night. And the Disney rehearsal starts at 4:30. So my music goes on at 4:30.
Yeah.
If you're not in, you're late, you know? You're late as soon as that music starts because my rehearsals start on time and they finish on time. And I always say to the kids, you need to be there 15, 20 minutes early. I was flabbergasted this morning. I've got an industry pro in who's just left Moulin Rouge. And she sent me a message this morning saying, I know I'm in at 9:15 at the school. My train arrives at 5 to 9. Is that okay? And I said, no, it's not okay. You you don't know where to go. You've already told me you don't have a music system, so you need to navigate mine. You need to get into make sure where all your stuff is. You probably need to go to the loo. Um, I
The train.
couldn't
Oh.
fathom getting to a place 10 minutes before I was about to teach when I've never been there. It would blow my mind.
Yeah. Actually, I just did Panto with Sue Pollard, and we had this conversation. We had a brilliant company, and nobody was ever late or anything. But because a lot of us were commuting, because it was Bromley, a lot of us were commuting in and out of town. We had the conversation, and you get the train before, the train before, the train before. That's the rule. So if you're getting there at 9:30 and there's one that gets in at 9:15, and if there are 15 minutes, you don't get the one that gets in at 9:30. You don't get the one that gets in at 9:50, nor 9 o'clock. You get the one that gets in at 8:45. The train before, the train before, the train before. That's the golden rule.
Yeah,
Um,
so true. So true. I mean, I find it very, very strange, that
yes,
people
my
and
one of my nieces came to stay, my youngest niece, and I mean she's in her 20s, but I'd be like, what time? I mean, she was doing work experience in different theatres, and I was like, what time do you have to be there? 6 o'clock. And she would look at City Mapper and go, if I leave here at 5:40, it says I'll get there by 6. And I was like, you need to leave. I was like literally throwing her out of the house.
yeah,
But actually, she was never late. She always managed to get there and do it. Whereas if I had to be somewhere at 6, no matter anywhere we live fairly central in London, and I walk everywhere, and I always leave an hour. Always an hour.
yeah,
After this, I'm going to Waterloo. I will leave an hour before. It's 3 stops on the tube, but I
yeah,
will still be there
absolutely.
an hour
And
before because I've got
auditions, I mean,
time to walk. If the tubes aren't that, then
yeah.
running. I've
And
got this.
also, like from an audition point of view, you kind of want to go there, suss out who's going, suss out who's
And just
there.
relax. I don't want
Yeah,
to be too
chill
early.
out.
I want to be in the vicinity, but not in the waiting room.
Yeah, exactly. I always used to go there, see exactly where I am, see where I needed to go, then go and have a coffee, and then go back
Yes,
because it just.
I walk around the street singing my song like a mad person.
I love that. So how do you kind of remain grounded in this industry? Because you are a really grounded person. I think, the posts and things that you put on Facebook are really lovely. They're not all, I'm delighted to announce that I'm in this, like a lot of these graduates that come out. I mean, I just find it bizarre. It's
And
always
not just
really,
graduates, not people who should know better.
yeah, yeah,
I remain grounded because I mean not always, but I try and remain grounded because I love it, but it ain't saving lives. It's enhancing lives. What we do enhances people's lives. It makes, for those 2 hours, it can make people's lives better. But there's a lot bigger things. There are people in the world doing a lot more important things than us. It really doesn't matter. And the bottom line with all that, I'm announcing and I'm thrilled to announce and all that stuff. Nobody cares.
Yes.
Nobody cares. If I go, I am thrilled to announce that I am playing Dame Dolly Dumpling in Hull. It really only affects me, my other half, and my mum, because we then need to know where we're going for Christmas.
Oh yeah, who's going
Does
to
it
be?
affect your life? Nope. Does
No.
it affect anybody in Hull? Nope. It doesn't affect anyone. It doesn't matter. Nobody's interested. I'm not interested. I'm interested to go, oh, that's lovely, you've got work and I'm thrilled for you or whatever. But it doesn't it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anybody else's life.
Yeah.
So get over it. It doesn't,
Yeah.
please, let's just, I think again, but don't think it's just in the business of show. I think it's in all industries. We all just slightly need to take the foot off the pedal. It's not everything. And I do think social media has fed this because we're all stars on our own platforms. We're all, the biggest star on Ben Stock's Facebook page is Ben Stock. So
Yeah.
that's number one. And number two, as I said earlier, everything is so instant. And these people who kind of jump red lights in their cars. I'm like, where are you going? Do you have somebody dying in the back of your car and you're going to A&E? Then please jump the red light. Are you going to Asda to buy some tulips and a pint of milk? Then just wait for the next light. Jump. I see people running across pedestrian crossings when it's red and jumping out of the way of buses. I'm like, where are you? You're going to Pret. It's not that, but I think social media and the world that we live in today has made everybody think that everybody's so instant and it has to be done now and it's so important. And oh my God, just
it's so true because
get a meal deal in Sainsbury's.
Yeah, my podcast launched yesterday, and when John, the lovely guy who's put it all together for me, because my tech is probably worse than yours, Ben, to be honest. And John had sent it over to me, and straight away I was like, I need to get it on my social media. I need to get it on social media. And actually, I'd uploaded it, and I hadn't uploaded it correctly, and I'd uploaded the wrong one. And so then I had to take it off, and then I was panicking that it wasn't on. And I just thought, if I'd have just taken a bit of a breath, and just, I know I was excited. And it wasn't, I'm thrilled to announce, but I was excited to put it on because it's been a lot of work. But you're absolutely right. Just having a bit of a breath sometimes. And
I also, I'm really lucky that I have a very sort of stable home life, and and so and Julian, my husband, is very, he works really, really hard, and he's very dedicated to what he does. But he's quite relaxed. I'm the one who go.
I think you have to have
we've run out of cream.
You have to have an us,
yes.
And you have to have a Julian and a Rob. I think.
I'll go. We've run out of cream, and he'll like, then just go and get some cream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. There has to be one. There has to be that yin and yang, and I think actually, I've always dated and been been engaged a couple of times to actors, and actually, it's so refreshing that Rob really has nothing to do with the industry whatsoever. He's very supportive. He'll come and see my shows, the kids are in and stuff, because obviously I don't perform now, but he won't, he won't go and see a West End show with me. He took me to see Waitress last year for my birthday, and he said he'd rather stick pins in his eyes afterwards. And I was absolutely mortified. I was like, it was wonderful. I'm sitting there crying my eyes out, and he was like, oh God, but he would do that for me because he knows that is really important. But I never would have thought that I would have settled with somebody. Rob and I have been together 10 years this week. I never would have thought that I would have settled with somebody who was so out of the industry, because I always dated people who were in the industry.
Well, and also I think, it's really hard sometimes not to, Julian is in the industry, but on the other side. And so it's hard to, when you're working evenings, when you're working, doing 8 shows a week, it's hard to meet people who aren't working in the same field as you. And, Liza Minnelli says, I've seen her so many times say it in interviews, and she named us all these people, like Frank Sinatra and and all and she's like, but plumbers know plumbers, electricians know electricians, teachers know teachers, because that's who you work with, right? So actors know actors. And, her mother was a movie star, so she grew up knowing movie stars, and she doesn't drop the names going, with this huge bravado. They were just Uncle Frank,
Yeah.
Um, and that so because you surround another friend of mine, him and his brother were both in West End shows, and they were bringing up their kids as well. And he came in one night at Chitty and said, "Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed today. We met somebody, or he took his daughter to something." And her first question to this little girl that she'd never met before was, "What show is your daddy in?" Like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. But her uncle um, and her dad were both in shows, so she assumed that she was only
Was
four.
in a show.
She assumed so what show was your dad in? And this girl was like,
Oh.
what? He's an electrician. What's this about? But so that's why it's hard to date. A lot of couples are, both in the same.
Yeah, which is interesting because I had a kind of, when I stopped dancing and performing, I actually had a very short career in fitness. So I actually went and retrained to be a fitness instructor and a personal trainer, and I did that for a couple of years, which is how I met Rob. So, almost, like you say, personal trainers, no personal trainers,
Yeah.
Now we just sit and eat biscuits of most
Fabulous.
evenings and
Watch
don't
the
go to the
photos.
gym. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, let's talk about growing up in the 80s and 90s as a gay man and how that was compared to now in the
Um,
industry. Because the
so I
industry
was
is very accepting of
Yes,
everybody.
theatre industry is, and I think that also extends into most of the sort of the amateur world as well. I think it's a very accepting world. I actually pushed all that aside for many years. I didn't really deal with any of that, and I
Okay.
just focused on being in Annie Get Your Gun and things. I wasn't interested in anything like that until much, 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 much later. I didn't have lots of strings of partners and stuff, and I didn't really deal with any of that at college. It just wasn't important to me, and I'm very happy in my own company, very happy in my own skin. Although Julian's been away a lot, and I've realised that actually I'm really not very
Not.
good on my own. It's like, oh God, he's coming back. I've got to do all this, Um, something's broken. I don't know how to fix it. I have to call someone.
There's
But
something technical broken. Where is he?
yeah, absolutely no idea. In fact, I've literally just sent something to somebody and said, "Can you print this for me?" Because I'm that bad. But and the world has changed. Looking, Section 28. Although I wasn't particularly aware of that, it was illegal to talk about anything other than like the traditional nucleus family in schools. And thank God all that rubbish is gone. But I do think I'm quite passionate that we don't say it's all so much easier now. In many ways, it is more accepted and it's more seen on television. And so it becomes, but there is still a huge portion of people that when they come out to parents or friends and family, they get a really, really, really rough time. 25% of young people living on the streets are from the LGBTQ plus community.
Really sad.
25%.
Wow.
And we do a little bit of work with a charity or support. I don't do any work with them. I support a charity called the Albert Kennedy Trust, who have residential spaces in London. I think it's London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Bristol. Maybe somewhere. There's 4 places that take in young, gay, queer people who've been chucked out by their family because they're gay.
So sad,
So
isn't it?
it isn't, and I think if we keep, it's getting better, and a lot more people are more accepting. But I think if we keep saying it's all good now and everybody accepts it, it puts even more pressure on those people for whom that has not been their experience.
Yeah,
And it
of
makes
course.
them more isolated. So I think we have to keep saying it's getting better, not that it's all fine.
There's
It's
definitely
really
been a
important.
shift in the industry in terms of castings and things like that. And when you look at
Yeah,
things like Six, the musical, and things like that, there's definitely been a shift, hasn't there,
yeah.
compared to when we were, well, you still are performing, but when we kind of graduated, really.
Yes, and it's only in the what I mean, I'm not saying it's only happened in the last, but it's only been recognised in the last few years. Most breakdowns for shows and things come out now will say male presenting or non-binary, or it's a much more fluid casting world now.
Yeah.
But I think I always think with anything, and you have to be so careful how you say this, because if somebody says I'm they them, I'll just remember it's not an issue for me. I will just remember that
That person.
want to be referred to as they. That's okay. It's not, again, everything's so dramatic. People are losing their minds over this thing. And it's happened to me, and someone gone, oh, it's ridiculous. Oh, and I'm just like, hang on, stop. How many people on your Monday to Sunday, how many people do you meet that ask you to refer to them as they, them instead of he, she? Oh, none. Right, then shut up. It doesn't matter. It's not impacting your life at all. So just don't have an opinion. So but with these things, as we're learning things, and I think it goes across the board, the pendulum always swings quite a long way, and it becomes a massive issue. And then people realize, oh, actually, this isn't such a big thing. It's not 98% of the population. It's a small part of the population. And actually just treat people with a little bit of respect and a little bit of kindness, and so the pendulum kind of does this, oh, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it, and then it settles down, and it's just, oh, okay, so in my company of 40 people, there's one person, or there's 3 people, sometimes there might be 5 people, but great, it's easier to remember if there's 5.
And and it's lovely that we are in an industry that is so accepting, and it has always been that, but I think there has been a real shift. I mean, I have changed things like, when people apply for the school, it's not just male and female. We've changed those kind of things to make it acceptable for everybody, because we had a young lad who was 13 who was going through a huge gender change, and it was life-changing, and he was in a terrible state. His parents had literally kicked him out. Stepping out was his safe place, and I want to be able to encourage everybody to be in performing arts, not just
how amazing that they had that a space to come to where they could just not worry and just be accepting, and I do think the theatre's always been more like that. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's still a long way to go. And you still hear people say awful things about I don't want to see a Black Ado Annie. Why not? Well, it's not realistic. Well, it is, but nor is singing with an orchestra. That's not realistic. Shut up. Ridiculous. I want to see a fabulous. I don't care.
As long as they're amazing, I don't care.
And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes we have to push the boundary and just go, that's my choice. That's what I want. And it's great, And the industry is shifting. And maybe there are times that I haven't been seen because that for something that traditionally I would have been seen for, because that isn't the vision of the director. Okay. That's all right.
That's fine. Yeah.
There's something else to come along. And you know what? Maybe it's my turn to wait my turn instead of somebody else's turn to wait their turn. For generations.
That's a really nice way of looking at it, because sometimes it can be really hard when you're like, oh, but I'm normally right for that. Why am I not being seen? Just before we kind of wrap up, and it's gone so quickly. Can you?
We'll have to do part 2.
We have to do part 2. Can you just speak to me about some of your favourite jobs?
I was thinking that somebody asked me this yesterday, actually. My favourite jobs are always about the people. It's never been, well, I liked that because it was, I
was playing the lead,
so my favourite part I ever played was up in Pitlochry, was Cornelius in Hello Dolly. I'd always wanted to do it. It's my favourite show. I'm obsessed with it. I'd always wanted to play it. It was like my last chance, because he says I'm 33 3/4 and I was already about 34, So it was 28 3/4, and I was.
That's quite interesting that you did that in Pitlochry, because I've got Carrie Ellis on next week, and Carrie Ellis and I did The Matchmaker,
who was in the very first pantomime I did.
Yes, I saw that
with Jerry Tebbett up in Watford. She was Robin Hood, and I was her Will Scarlett. I love Carrie, most
Yeah, she's
talented
lovely.
woman I've ever worked with, I think.
Yeah, she's
Um,
great.
uh, yeah, so I did that. That's one of my favorite jobs. I adored doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the West End, and I did very little in it. I was one of the inventors, but again, it was just the most fabulous, fabulous company.
Fast, yeah.
Um, I did Annie in Perth. I loved that job. But when we were up there, 9/11 happened. And I think it was such a strange time. And we were all away from home. It was during tech and we watched planes go into So as a company, we just bonded
Gelled.
because we didn't have family around us. We didn't have, everyone was going, hug your loved ones a bit tighter tonight. Well, we didn't have any. So we kind of, as a company, hugged each other. And I'm
Oh,
still in touch with a lot of that company and godfather to one of their kids and all that sort of stuff. Um, probably I loved doing Beauty and the Beast. I used to work in the Disney store, and when Beauty and the Beast came out as
ah.
a cartoon, and I remember watching it on the screen, going, God, they'd never be able to put that on stage, but if they did, I want to play Lumiere, so I did. So
Did
that
you
was a
do
very
that in the West End? Or
no,
was
I
that a
did the
tour?
I did the tour for UK Productions
Okay.
for Martin and Peter. I did that for 2 years. That's the longest job I've ever done. 2 years, my
Do you know
God.
what? That's really weird because I nearly did that job.
Oh, did you? Were you
Yeah, well, I
the
did the
best?
final for Belle.
Ah, for that. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, and this was a constant problem in my casting because I could sing Belle, but I could also do the kind of belty stuff as well. So
Right.
in a lot of, I mean, Les Mis, I did the workshop for Les Mis 7 times.
Wow.
Ridiculous. Because every year they would send me the Cosette stuff and the Eponine stuff. It was
Yeah.
almost like I could sing both, but they just weren't quite sure which
Which
way
way
to
to
go.
put
So
it?
they kind
Yeah.
of went, well, we won't bother then,
And
you know.
I do think that's slightly changed as well in the internet. They're less pigeonholy now, I would say. Other people
Yeah.
would agree. So that was a real favourite. But probably if I had to relive one night, I did my one man sort of cabaret show in New York at 54 Below. And
Wow.
it was something I never thought I'd get to do. And we
Was
had
that
a really,
recently?
oh gosh, no, about 8 years ago.
Okay.
2018, 17, 18, something like that. And my Julian was working in New York a lot at the time, and we knew a lot of people out there, and they all were so supportive. They all turned out. So I had a really full house.
Oh,
My mum came out,
oh,
and I
how
remember thinking, "Oh my God,
wonderful.
I'm so nervous," And Maria Friedman was there because she was also doing stuff, and I had the head of the Broadway League, the head of TDF, the head of the Schuberts. I had all these, but they were all there to support us rather than look for the next big. It wasn't that sort of evening. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous. And then I just thought, do you know what? This is probably never going to happen again. I know my words. I mean, it's a room full of love. And I just went out. And I think it was probably the best. There are a lot of other people who do it better than me. But for me, it was probably the best thing I ever did that one night.
How lovely.
And it was magical. And I just kept thinking, I'm here. I'm on 54th Street in New York
I've
doing
done
a
it.
solo show. I had my MD Inga with me. She'd come over with me. I had friends in New York. My mum had come over. My friend Gregor had flown over. Jessica Martin had flown over. And a lot of things just lined up. Jessica needed to be in New York with her husband who was doing some work there. It just all sort of lined up. And it was just incredible. So that was probably my favorite night. That and the closing night of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when they invited everybody back, and it was the longest running show at the Palladium. It was just the most magical.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that as well. I've seen you in a lot. You kind of forget how many things I've seen you in. But actually, like going back and thinking, yeah, I saw you in Dame Edna, I saw you in Beauty and the Beast, saw you in Jitty. So yeah, there's quite a few things that I've seen you in
oh,
over the years, which is lovely. I can't believe we've run out of time, but we really have. But
well,
I'd
we'll
love
do
to get you on
series
here
two.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
series
let's
two.
do
I'll come back
series two.
and talk more rubbish.
Yeah, no, it's been so lovely. And what's been different about having you on today is that for everybody else, I think that I've got on the podcast so far, they've all transitioned out of the industry, a bit like myself, into the industry, but doing something slightly
Yeah,
different. Carrie going into adjudicating, Matt going into stunts, Emma going into
yeah,
being an author, Kim going into well-being for children. There's like you were saying earlier, there's lots of, even though you may not be performing anymore, there's lots of other avenues that, suddenly when you stop,
absolutely.
there's other things you can do.
And I also think just quickly, it goes the other way. I do some stuff going to schools to talk about careers, and I was chatting to some kids, and they were like, "Oh, I don't really know anything about it, but I'm thinking of being an architect." I was like, then, but I quite liked the theatre, and I was like, then be an architect who a few years later becomes a set designer, because you'll be a really good set designer. So it does work the other way around as well. There are skills that you can, if you're an electrician, go and and you suddenly think, I love the theatre. I can, have I got time for one more story or not?
Yeah, go on, quickly.
I was doing something on we do something every other year on the Queen Mary. This is just a good story to wind up on. And I run like a passenger choir. And this lady came up to me, we've done 2, and she came up to me on the second one and said, oh, you probably don't remember me, but I did it last time. And she said, I was told when I was 16 that I couldn't sing and I shouldn't sing and I wasn't very good. And I loved it, but it knocked my confidence. And she was now in her mid-50s or whatever. And she did this cruise 2 years before and joined the choir. And she said, and I just reawakened this love of music. And she said to me, I got off the ship and I thought, no, I need to change my life. And so she jacked in her job. She trained to be a chaperone, and she's now a chaperone at the Royal Opera House. And she said, I'm surrounded by music every single day of my life, and I'm in a choir. And it took me a long time to get rid of all those things that people have put on my shoulders. But now she said, I'm living my best life through doing other things and coming back into it. Yeah. And this one thing just helped, and so again, it just shows that it can be a very open and welcoming industry. She's not singing professionally, but she's listening to world-class opera singers every day of her life that she goes to work. How amazing!
And you also sometimes think, I remember going, I'm giving up, and I've talked about this on a couple of other episodes, of it being quite a big day for me to go, right, that's it, and phoning my agent and going, that's it, I'm done, and actually a couple of times I've been asked to go back and do other things, and I have no desire to do it now. I really, really don't. In fact, my sister was doing a show recently and was like, would you come and just do a couple of songs? And I said, oh no, I can't do that now. It makes me feel sick. Like I will literally do out one song in our awards night every year, and literally I get palpitations before it. It's mad. And yet I think when you make that decision to stop, and I think it's wonderful that you're still doing it, you kind of think, well, what else can I do? I can sing a top C and I can do the splits. What else can I do? I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But there are so many other things
Absolutely.
that you learn during, the discipline, like we've spoken about today, being a nice person, being humble, being grounded. Actually, this episode's really gone into a lot of the other parts of the industry that are so important to make you a rounded performer.
I mean, when you're doing a quick change in front of 25 people you've never seen before, and you stood there in your pants. I mean, there's nothing glamorous about it, is it? Do you know what I mean? You have to remain grounded, because it's some dirty backstage thing with sort of spanners and screws and drills everywhere, and you stood there in your pants putting on a pair of tights. I mean, there's nothing glamorous about it. That's the reality.
It's quite funny. My husband laughs at me because I literally just walk around the house naked. I really don't care. And he's like, babe, seriously, like, can you just put a bra on or something? I'm just walking around. And I was like, sweetheart, most of the industry have seen this arse.
Yeah. Actually. In Bradford during a quick change.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing quick changes in goodness knows how many theatres. The fact that I'm here with no bra on in front of my husband really makes no difference. But we'll end it there, shall we? We'll end it on that happy note.
Thanks for having me on. You've been brilliant.
Oh, it's been so lovely, Ben. It really, really has. And I would love to get you back on again to talk about, I feel like we've just kind of got the first part of your career, but we haven't talked about, the stuff that you've done recently. And obviously being like a dame in panto, I mean, that's a whole episode in itself.
In itself, yes. Yeah. So that's something else to add to the things I love. That's probably what I love doing most, is panto.
Oh, well, I must come and see.
Who knows? I have no idea. It's always a year on, will you be asked? Will you not be asked? That's the joy of the industry. But hopefully, that's all I can say.
I mean, you've done it every year. I can't see that you won't.
Who knows? Who knows? Nothing lasts forever, but I hope so.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. Well, listen, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you so much for giving up an hour of your time.
Pleasure.
And best of luck.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Take care, my love. Bye. Thank you for listening to Treading the Boards to Business. We hope we added some sparkle to your day. Please like, subscribe and share our channel. And if you know of any lovers who may want to share their story, do get in touch. We hope the rest of your day is filled with glamour and glitter.